So here's the fine contour variables you give it. You give it the binary image, then you tell it, if it wants, how it deals with the hierarchy of objects in objects. And I'll talk about that in a second, what that means. And then the final one is it's going to give you all the points around the contour. And it can do it two ways. It can give you all the points. And if we look at this example, here's a rectangle. If this was the object, there could be there could be 100 pixels wide. Well, then there's about 200 pixels for the top and bottom, and maybe another 100 for the side. So it'll return 400 points to define the contour. That's if you give it chain approximate none. If you give it chain approximate simple, it's going to say, hey, this is a straight line, so let me just give you these endpoints. And so instead of giving you 400 XY pairs, it'll just give you the four corners, the XYs of the four corners. So it's a question of, do you want all the details or do you want the line approximations? For us, we're not really, you can use either. I tend to use approximate because you'll see, to give me all the points, because it really outlines the whole thing, as well. I'll show you when we run our code. And so we got to talk about hierarchy for a second. So if you have, especially if you didn't do the blurring, and it has two outlines, remember, like we talked about holes, if we had a stentor, a cell, and then inside the nucleus had a different contrast, different intensity, and it thresholded to be another object inside, you'd have an object inside of an object. And so Contours is smart enough, it can give you a hierarchy and said, oh, there's this object number 2 is inside number 1. We don't have to deal with that complexity, but for full disclosure, Contours will do that for you. It'll give you a hierarchy of objects and objects. Since we're not doing that, we're using this return external command, which says, if there is an object in an object, just give us the contour of the outermost object. Okay, that's a lot to take in. Does that make sense? The idea of hierarchies and why we only are concerned with the most outer object hierarchy in the hierarchy? And if you're being biologists, you might want the hierarchy in your images of cells and nucleus and all those other organelles.
How do you see the hierarchy?
How do you see the hierarchy? It returns a list of lists. And so I'll refer you to the instruction. If you Google Python, OpenCV, find contours, it'll show you how the hierarchy encoding, but it's basically lists and lists. And honestly, we've never had to do it because we want the silhouette always to do the shape of the creature, to do the classification. But I know organelles are really important to biologists, so I thought I'd just tell you it's available for you when you need it.